Freeze is not around, so let's just go ahead and knock it out.
He's getting his hair cut.
Not at 7:30 at night, he's not.
Well, it depends on the relationship he has with a beautician.
Now, wait a minute. Didn't he brag on the podcast, or at least before we went live, that he had that his hairdresser or whatever, well, he probably has a hairdresser, came and did an in-house visit for him?
Yes, but there's a lot of adjectives that can go in front of the word visit. So we'll just leave it at that.
On this episode of the John 1911 podcast, the Biden laptop story, podcast issues, all 1911 should be 9mm, and beat your meat on Zoom.
Okay, good evening, everybody. This is Danny and Marky, and welcome to episode 189 of the John 1911 podcast. We have received a number of emails and communications and private messages from people wondering what has happened to the podcast. We have been suffering some significant technical issues, and one of the problems that we've been having with it is we haven't been able to, record with three people very well. So turns out Freeze is not available tonight, so Danny and I are going to go ahead and knock out this episode because we're 2 weeks from a national presidential election, and like all holy hell is breaking loose, and everybody wants to know what we have to say about it. So
with bated breath.
With bated breath. I'm actually tell you what. Let me check this real quick. What's one guy? What he said something? Let me check. That's the wrong app. We had a guy. We've had multiple people reaching out wanting to know, the world. Okay, here we go. So this is a guy. This guy's a cop, so I'm not going to say his identity, but he listens to the podcast. He sent this today. He's like, "Y'all going to be doing a podcast anytime soon? Plenty to talk about." And I told him we've been having some issues, and he goes, "The world is burning, and we all need the voices of reason. So you know who you are." So,
if we're the voices of reason, here comes hell in a handbasket.
I didn't want to say anything to the guy, but I felt like the captain of the Titanic and like telling the passengers everything's fine.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Yeah, we're unsinkable. Yeah. Everything's fine. Don't worry about the asteroid that's going to hit us the day before the election.
Yeah.
So,
you want fries with that burger? We're good.
Yeah, this podcast right now is literally the band playing music on the deck of the Titanic today. That's what we are. So get your goddamn French horn out and start playing for me, little boy. Oh God!
Oh, you're on a roll already. You must have had something high-powered for dinner.
It's been. I haven't. I ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner at about 4:30. Today it's 7:30 now p.m. I didn't eat all day. It's been a crazy busy day. So much going on. So, all right, let's just go ahead and jump into it. So, there's a lot. We're not going to get it all in, and what I'm probably going to do is we'll probably have to record double the amount of podcasts. We'll do one with you, and then we'll do one with Freeze. And so, we will do a lot more political stuff, obviously, and then with Freeze, we'll do some political and some gun stuff, but. I'm gonna hang this question because you and I haven't really talked. You've been down medically as well. What do you think of the Hunter Biden laptop story?
Well, did you happen to see this afternoon's news?
No.
Said laptop is now in the possession of FBI forensics.
Wait a minute. I thought that laptop was supposed to be in possession of the FBI in December of 2019. Where the hell has it been?
I don't know, but there was no bleach at the store when I went there today. So,
Yeah, bleach bit. Yeah. Well, so a couple of things I've heard. So help me out here and help the reader, because the problem is a lot of this stuff is coming so quickly that a fair amount of the information is not correct. I've heard there was a laptop. It was an Apple Mac of some kind. And then I swear somebody made a reference in the media yesterday that there are 3 laptops.
Really?
How many laptops are there? Do we know?
The only one that I personally am aware of course, reading, is that the one laptop which was dropped off to the repairman, and said repairman is the one that exposed the emails. So I was thinking it was only one. Where 2 and 3 came from is news to me.
It could have been. Now, that was not a credible statement. That could have been somebody just mispronouncing whatever words were coming out of their mouth. So maybe there is only one laptop. So, okay, I'm gonna say this about this laptop thing. And okay, look, I guess I'm a conservative. I mean, I am in some ways. I mean, I am really in most ways. But this laptop store, and I want Trump to win. This laptop story stinks to high heaven. This story is so crazy and so batshit full of holes that my advice would be, if you and I were talking off pod, would be gird your loins and get ready, because this story with this laptop may have a lot more shit to it that's going to hurt it. So here's my theory. So how do I say this? The Democrats are supposedly claiming that this laptop, this is not a real story, and this is fake. But I guess Hunter Biden's attorney has now been asking for the laptop to be returned, because if it's his property, he would like it returned. But then that would be stating that the laptop must be real, passively. But here's the thing. So if Danny, if you were president or vice president, and I was a nation state, and whether I was a friend or foe of the president of the United States, it would be in my interest, my geopolitical interest, for my intelligence services to get me as much information as I could get about you and your administration. So when I'm talking to the United States, I know where you stand. I know what you're thinking. I know who you're dealing with. I want to know as much information as I can get. So when I'm sitting across from you, from president to president or leader to leader, I know more than what you're telling me, just so I know I have more, so I can make more informed decisions or more informed policy positions or statements. With that being said, I would tell my intelligence agencies to obviously spy on you, but that would be hard because you're the president. It's not as hard to spy on your brother-in-law, your son's girlfriend,
excuse me,
your neighbor, your whatever. And so one thing you have to realize here, there's a possibility. Again, I have no reason to believe this. I have zero reason to believe this, so I'm not leading the audience. But there is a possibility that the laptop can be 100% true, can be 100% correct, and everything on it is dirty and the Bidens are caught. However, a foreign actor may have decided, instead of breaking into the laptop and stealing the stuff, which is more trackable, since I, as the foreign actor, would know what's on the laptop, I would possibly maybe arrange to have that laptop stolen and have it dropped off somewhere.
I think you're delving more into conspiracy. Possibly, I don't know. But here's the thing. One of the people on the said email also corroborated everything as fact. And that person that corroborated the factual points of the emails was also at the events.
Yes, I've heard that. But that goes into what I'm saying. Again, I'm not even advocating this. I just want to get it out there as a possibility. Two things can be true at the same time. The emails can be real, but somebody could be screwing with the election. So, because it would be, in theory, it would be in somebody's interest, now whoever that would be, if I'm a foreign actor and I know this shit's happening, here's the thing. This is Hunter Biden. We, even here at the John 911 Armor, we'd heard stories about him, but we hadn't heard all of this. But so none of this was really a secret. But if I as a nation state could arrange to yank that laptop out of one of his apartments or wherever this man lives and drop it off with the blind freaking computer guy, like, I'm not saying that happened. I'm just saying it is possible that there's more going on than what we realize. And it is possible that the Democrats will claim that this is what happened. So even though it's true, it's nullified because it's just the Russians trying to do it again.
Okay, let's get into what you had just said. Even if part of your theories are true, you have to ask yourself, the timing is very suspect, number one, of the finding the computer. Number two, why won't Joe Biden himself admit what was in the emails when there's all kinds of pointing fingers with evidence that show he was? He continues to evade. For some reason, he continues to evade. Why did...
Well, hold on. I'm going to stop you there for a minute because there's two reasons for that. And this is in the Biden team's defense. Number one, the media is covering for the Bidens, and the media is putting super lids. They're not, they're going, like, everyone's talking about, like, they went to the ice cream shop and they're asking the dude what flavor ice cream you got instead of asking these questions. So they're not covering it. And the Biden campaign does not want to get caught in a gotcha 2 weeks. And it's somewhat in their defense, it's not Joe Biden's emails. In theory, it's not his emails. It's not his organization's emails. He shouldn't know what's in these emails. He may know some things, but they're not. Joe Biden should know as much what's in these emails as you would know what's in my emails. You would know some stuff. So in his defense, it's not his email.
Okay. Semantics. I'll leave it at that. But that's
not semantics. That's facts.
Well, if it's such a nothing burger.
Oh, no way.
Let me finish my...
Nobody said nothing burger.
Well,
this is the ultimate October surprise in United States political history.
Why? Here's my theory. If it's such a nothing burger, of course we all know the mainstream media is covering it up. But also, why did Twitter take it down? Facebook, any reference, it's taken down. It's beyond covering. So is it to keep the public uneducated? Is it factual? I think by them taking it down and covering up has brought more people looking for the light.
Yes, I agree. So why? Okay, so the reason why they took it down, it's not because there's like George Soros is sitting in the bunker and he's got all these levers of power. That's not what's happening here. Here's what's happening. It's 2016 all over again. And 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks before the election, Comey comes out and is like, I ain't going to get fucking jammed up on this. Wait till after the election. So Comey sends out a letter to all these people in Congress, informing them, and it's a private letter, but it's understood in Congress it'll get leaked, that they are looking into a computer issue with Hillary Clinton. And that dropped like a nuclear bomb right before the November election in 2016. And everybody's like, oh, fucking God, the fucking Clintons, the dirty sons of bitches, this is never going to end with these fucking people. And what's happening is the media, the left, Silicon Valley, all these people who want to pretend that Donald Trump is Hitler, they're literally seeing this computer drop, and they literally are thinking, "Oh my God, they're doing it again." Quote, they're going whatever they want to say. Steal the election, lose the election, insert your favorite argument by the left. Then they're in full blown panic, but they overshot their wad here. It's obvious now that 230, especially if Donald Trump gets elected, if Section 230 of the 1996 Telecommunication Act, the thing that gives social media
Their protections.
yeah, they're not held liable. They can't be sued for what's on their shit. But that's going to get wiped. That's going to get wiped away. They've really overplayed this.
Well, also the president today, at one of his stumps and his speeches, said he can't order it, but he would love to see Barr open an investigation on Hunter Biden's iPad
Or even computer.
or computer. I'm sorry.
But yeah. I mean, he can't, especially because it's political. And he even said he can't order it, but he would like to. I mean, he can strongly suggest it. Traditionally, there is this is something that kind of surprised Trump. And Trump was really kind of naive about it when he first became president. He watched Barack Obama have an attorney general named Eric Holder. And Eric Holder said, quote, "I am Barack Obama's wingman." And Donald Trump thought that, the attorney general is like the lawyer for the president. And actually, no, that's not true. And just because Eric Holder did not behave in an upstanding way or in a traditionally objective, thoughtful, bureaucratic, systematic way.
He definitely did Hillary's and Obama's bidding.
He did.
That's pretty open.
And so, it was just one of those things where, it took Trump a few years to figure out, like with Jeff Sessions and this other stuff, that the attorney general is not his personal attorney.
But you know what I'm thinking? This is, of course, just conjecture and opinion on my part. When Trump gets back in, I look for a cabinet cleaning house. I really do. Starting with the FBI director.
Oh, yeah. The FBI director's done.
I look for a wholesale cleaning house of his cabinet. Because...
let's talk about that for a minute. So I have gone public and I have stated, and the example that I gave was with the French government and one of the French Foreign Legion regiments or units, one of the large units. When France decided they were pulling out of Algeria, there was a French Foreign Legion unit that had spent most of their time in Algeria, and they rebelled and they tried to fight leaving, giving up that colony. And what the French did is, after it was over, because these guys did lose, the French government erased this unit's existence from the order of battle and history of the military. They didn't shut the unit down; they deleted it. It just doesn't exist anymore. They were so ashamed that this unit had turned and basically betrayed their own country by fighting against their own country and not following these lawful orders, that the price that they paid was the ultimate dishonor of just being erased. And we are quickly approaching a threshold. Nobody knows where that threshold is. That argument could be that logic could be applied to the FBI.
Well, I was reading. Yeah, it could. I was reading a very interesting polling article. Most of the polls, when they're showing Biden ahead, are showing Biden, we'll say, 3 to 5 points up. Did you know that the people polled are 6 to 7 Democrats out of 10? And that also in the swing states, the polls are very skewed because they're not, number one, interviewing Republicans, and number two, which I find more than anything, is the polls are also not showing how the mail-in balloting is in these swing states are going in Trump's favor. You don't see any of that on the mainstream media. And number two, Republican voter registrations are up over 10% than they were at the 2016 level. Well, here's a close to home one in Ohio. Ohio has an 11% increase in Republican registrations versus minimal Democrat new voter registrations. Now, when I was in Ohio with you guys a month ago or whatever, I'm sorry, I just didn't see much Biden stuff.
No. We actually talked about this on the pod that disappeared because we couldn't publish it because the audio was so bad. But there were polls showing that Biden's leading in Ohio, and Biden's leading by like 6 points or something, or maybe even 8. And I remember riding around, and I'm like, "There's no way." I mean, I'm being objective here. I'm like, there is no way from the stuff that I've seen. Now, since then, in Biden's defense, I guess the Biden campaign has gotten their sign game up to par, and I have seen a lot more Biden signs than when you and I had that conversation a few weeks ago. But it's still more Trump than Biden. So
also, if you're in the urban areas, yes. Suburbs and country and township areas, no way.
It depends. The reality is the urban areas have the population. So like in the state of Ohio, Cleveland is a huge urban area. Cincinnati, Hamilton County, I don't know what the county is for Cleveland. Is it Cuyahoga County? Cleveland is a big population. Cincinnati is a big population. Then you've got Columbus in the middle of the state, not really as big as Cincinnati. But there's a lot of Democrats there. There's a lot of Democrats in Cleveland. Cincinnati was known as kind of a conservative bastion. Just fun political side legal fact: the federal courthouse, the Sixth Circuit, is based here in Cincinnati, and the federal courthouse here is named the Justice Potter Stewart Courthouse after the Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart. And Potter Stewart was famous for the phrase that people have heard, but they don't realize where it comes from. When someone asked him, the question in Supreme Court jurisprudence came up, what is pornography? And Justice Potter Stewart famously said, I don't know, I can't define pornography, but I don't know how to express what pornography is, but I know it when I see it. That's how conservative traditionally the Cincinnati area is. Now, but even with that being said, urban Cincinnati, there are a lot of Democrats in that cesspool. And, I don't think Biden has ever been up in Ohio. And I did some looking, and I found some statistics. Republican pollsters are polling, or when they're doing their models, they're saying that, okay, if let's say registered Republicans, you have 100% registered Republicans, okay? Their models that they're modeling, they're supposedly claiming that Donald Trump is only going to get 76 or 78% of the registered Republican vote. And the reality is, right off the bat, there's no way. There's no way it's that low. It hasn't. The only time it was even close to being that low was when Ross Perot ran in 1992. So you had George Herbert Walker Bush, Ross Perot, and Bill Clinton, and Ross Perot took 20% of the vote, and that and so 70. It was like 76 or 78% of Republicans voted for George Herbert Walker Bush. The rest either sat it out or voted for Perot. There's no way, right off the bat, there's no way that model works.
No.
This election is not an election about, this is not an election where you're trying to convince people of an argument. This is a motivation election. This is people, there's very few people who haven't decided who they're going to vote for. There's not these supposed, these
swing
what do you call
voters.
them, the swing, these mythical unicorn swing voters that can like supposedly, and it's true because Trump got them. These swing voters that voted for Barack Obama in 2008, but voted for Donald Trump in 2016, and the Democrats can't handle that. They don't understand how someone can vote for Barack Obama and vote for Donald Trump. The reality is, most of the vote is already set. It's just about motivation to get people out. So first of all, the Republican count in these models, 70-some% bull crap. It's the registered Republican voter is going to vote Republican is going to be in the 90s. There's no way it's not going to be.
Well,
the second thing. Hold on. There's even more. So, they are also showing that some of these models, they're only polling like 500 people for an entire state. And so they, like let's say instead of polling, let's say thousands, they're doing 500 and then they're just tweaking it, increasing the stats. Well, if they're polling at 500, which is already low, and then they're increasing the stats, to try to like model for more people, it's already skewed. Then they're skewing. So they're skewing on how many Republicans. They're skewing on their sample size. Also, they're having what the hell else was it? There was something. What the hell else? There was I guess what you had said, the amount of Republicans
the ratio
are voting
of Democrats to Republicans.
Yeah, or the amount of Republicans that have are even voting early. Like there's signs right now that they're showing that more Republicans are voting early because the idea was mail-in balloting or early voting is going to favor Democrats. And even if it does, apparently what's happened is there may be more Democrats still early voting than Republicans, but there's so many more Republicans than normal because the Republicans tend to get all their votes on voting day. But there's so many more early Republican voters that this wave that they're supposedly predicting is going to happen from early voting doesn't look like it's going to happen. The last stats I heard, Trump's going to win Florida. Going to be close. He's going to win Florida. Trump's going to win Ohio. Trump's leaning probably going to win North Carolina. There's even a possibility Trump could win Arizona, but he could win Arizona. But Martha McSally down there, who's running for Senate, she could still theoretically lose. It depends. If Trump is a huge landslide, it'll probably pull her across the finish line. If it isn't, she'll get wiped out because she's on the bubble.
I agree.
There. Apparently Trump right now looks like he's going to win Michigan. And they're talking Wisconsin and
Pennsylvania,
Minnesota. Well, no, Pennsylvania. Now, Pennsylvania. The problem is with Pennsylvania is
Pittsburgh and Philly.
Yeah, the thing is, there's this guy. He made a comment, and his argument was Trump could win Pennsylvania, but the Democrats could steal it from him with all the fraud because there's so much. There's so much fraud, and it would be so close that he could lose Pennsylvania. So, so that's why. But that's why the Democrats chose Biden to get Pennsylvania,
right? Because he's from the East Coast. But you have to remember, even if Trump were to lose Pennsylvania, if he picks up Arizona, keeps the Rust Belts, and possibly picks up Minnesota, that is huge. That'll offset that.
Here's the thing: if Trump holds Florida, he takes Michigan, he holds Arizona, and they get some extra butter. North Carolina goes for Trump. The Democrats are in big
Nevada
trouble.
Is possibly in play now. Also, I read that today.
See, now I hadn't heard that today. Now I hadn't heard that. Now here's the thing: if Nevada is actually in play, if it's really in play, it's going to be a wipeout. Like for the Democrats, it's going to be a wipeout. But you know what? Let me go ahead and make this comment about the statistics because we talked about this, but I forget, like some of the people, we lost that episode. There's something wrong with the polls. That makes no goddamn sense. And here's the problem. Okay, look, pollsters are in business to make money. All right? This is a business. These people get paid, and they get paid every 2 years, and every 4 years. And the every 4-year one is the big one. And you can make the argument that pollsters and polling and like people will say, well, God, the polls are wrong, 2016 all over again and whatever. That's an oversimplified argument. Here's the problem. If I was running a polling company and I'm showing Biden up by 8 and I'm showing, a landslide for Biden and Trump wins, I look like a fucking asshole. And nobody's going to stroke me a check next time. So what's going to magically happen? What's going to be a clue here? You're going to see two things. The polls will magically tighten. Okay? All of a sudden, Ohio will magically tighten. Okay? And they'll be like, oh, Trump's doing better in Ohio. But it's like, I've never seen Trump not doing good in Ohio, first of all. It's like, but now they'll magically tighten. If you see polls magically tighten in places where you and I are like, there's no way Trump's losing, that tells you the polls are full of shit and they know it. Because these guys, they cannot cross the finish line and be wrong. They can't be that wrong. They wipe their own business out.
That's a good point.
Okay? Now, the second thing is to look for here. And I've seen one of them, but I haven't seen too many. If the Republicans really are going to lose, you'll start to see more and more Republicans separate themselves from Trump.
Well, a big one did today.
Michael
Steele, the ex GOP national chairman, he said he's voting for Biden.
Well, no, but that guy's been no. He does no. He doesn't count. He's not a sitting politician. He's been on MSNBC. He's a cocksucker. He's no different. He's no different than Bill Kristol sitting over there, National Review, basically all these Republican guys have become they become political operatives that consult for the Democratic Party. No. I'm talking like Corbyn in Texas supposedly is, he's come out and been like, well, Donald Trump. It's like
he's leveraging his odds.
Yeah, because in case, so he could be like, look, if you're right, hey, that the whole Donald Trump thing. Sorry about that. I was with you guys the whole time, but I haven't seen too much of it. And it's 2 weeks away.
I don't think you'll see spin-off factions too much. I really don't. But getting back to how you had just said, where Republicans tend to vote, and they, in fact, not tend, they do vote more on Election Day itself. Well, that's because they have to wait till they get off work.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Oh, there's even another statistic. Check this one out. So if you look at the number of, young voters, like 18 to 20, you can vote at 18, but then you're old enough to buy alcohol at 21, like you're, at that point, the only real thing left to be is, like 35 to be able to run for Senate or president, right? So that 18 to 20-year-old young vote, the Democrats have always
controlled it pretty much.
Yeah, well, they're college age. They're kind of in this bubble. They don't live in the real world. They love college and they're partying and whatever. The amount of young people who voted for who voted for Obama in 2008, and then it went down to a half. I think it was a half that voted for Hillary. And now what the statistics they're showing that are going to vote this election for Biden, it's like a quarter of what it was. It's collapsed. This young vote that the Democrats supposedly are counting on, you don't hear them talking about it. It's collapsed. Like, it's completely collapsed. They're not seeing it. They're not voting. And they're not looking like
there's a lot of avenues that collapsed. It's ridiculous. Speaking about collapsing, did you see, I think there was 6 or 8 big town city police chiefs had an interview, and they said if Biden loses, these are all from Democrat cities, of course, and Democrat mayors and governors. If Biden loses, they don't know how they will be able to quell the riots and violence.
Well, it's not my problem.
Same here. You created that monster, and you're going to sleep with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not my problem. It's like, okay, what are they really telling me here? Are you
That
threatening
they have
me?
no control.
That's what it
Yeah, that they
sounds
have no
like.
control.
Yeah, you're threatening me, like, oh, vote my way or else. It just sounds like just basic Antifa
Yeah, it is.
bullshit. You know what?
It's making
okay,
rounds, though. I thought I'd
you
let you
know,
know about that one.
well, my favorite one was there's been a couple of these. I think Chris Wallace saved Biden on this one. They were asking what law enforcement union or whatever group has endorsed you, candidate Senator Biden, Vice President Biden, and then Wallace, saved him at the debate. And I guess Biden was somewhere. Maybe he did something. Maybe he was at a town hall, and he claimed some union or group in Pennsylvania had endorsed him.
The boiler,
And they came out there like, we
the
didn't fucking endorse you.
Boilermakers.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God.
It's
really interesting. Like we're seeing, if you look at this from 30,000 feet, what's really going on here? There's a couple things. Number one, look, this is very chaos. We're a lot of chaos right now. Okay. I mean, we're going through a time, and the reality is none of this is going to last. Things will settle down. But there's a lot of change happening. There's a change happening in media. NBC, ABC, CBS, and maybe then CNN. They're used to being the arbiters of the news, and they're not. That's changing. People are getting their news from different sources. People are questioning these people's behavior, and the monopoly is changing. Demographically and politically, it's also changing. It used to be that the Republican Party represented the super wealthy in big business, and on the country club set. And then the Democrat Party represented the working man. But what's really happened is the Republican Party is representing the middle class, and the Democratic Party represents the very poor, which are dependent on government, and the very rich, which use government to make money. Both those groups, are benefit from government, in government control and government manipulation. But also, what's interesting, what the real dangerous thing that's happened here with the Democrats is, and look, Danny, you and I know this. Like we're old enough. We remember the Cold War. We remember the Soviet Union. We know a little bit about communism. A lot of people today, like if you hear the phrase bourgeois or bougie, kids today think bougie and bourgeois is referring to Paris Hilton and the rich.
No, we know what it really means.
The
BS.
Well, the bourgeois was the middle class, because the middle class is really what holds a capitalist society together. They actually make all the money. They're the ones that vote. They exercise a large amount of political power. They're the ones. The communism and Marxists always want to destroy a working middle class. So they either you can have a bunch of very poor people that are ready to set fire to the Bastille, or a bunch of very rich people that you can either co-opt into your system of government, or you could use them as the foil, as the windmill, the enemy that you can put the masses against. The middle class guys are what communists always want to destroy. What's happening is we're seeing a complete polarity shift in American politics right now. The Republican Party, it's obvious, is the party of the middle class now. There's just no, and that's why the Bill Kristols and some of these hoity-toity guys, they don't understand Trump. They don't like Trump, because they are just, they go to all the same parties that all the rich Democrats go to in Washington and Georgetown. And Donald Trump is more concerned about American jobs and American power and American economy and American infrastructure and what's best for America, not what's best for Amazon or for elites on the coasts. And that's a huge shift. that's taking place. Nobody is talking about it now because they don't see it. But 30 years from now or 100 years from now, political scientists will describe what's happening right now exactly.
Well, it looks like we're going to be the Quasimodos of the Bastille fire. So somebody's got to put it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's like.
Well,
how do I say?
Your one of your favorite sayings, which you've always talked to me either on or off pod, in person, whatever. You always would say, you never know when you're on camera. You're always being watched. Well, at least we don't have to listen to a certain political analyst for 2 weeks.
God almighty, Jeffrey Tubin. You know what? See, here's the thing. We do not record these podcasts using video just because of the technology we're using right now. We could, but I'm going to institute a policy before we go live. I'm going to be like, okay. I'm going to be like, freeze. Hey, do you hear me? You're 5x5. Check, check, check. He's going to be like, yes. I'm like, Danny, do you hear me? 5x5. Check, check, check. And like, okay, audio, video, we're all good. Then I'm going to say, does everybody have pants on? Does everybody have pants on? Because what I thought happened was, because I heard the story and he accidentally exposed himself. And what I figured, I'll just be honest, I thought maybe he was sitting in a chair, he put on a sport coat and maybe even a tie, and he's sitting there in his boxers or whatever. And then maybe he forgot that he, was naked, and just stood up because like the pizza guy rang the doorbell and he flashed his junk. But then it's coming out that he was jerking
really?
off or something. You didn't hear this? Oh, no, he was jerking off and stuff. And there were a bunch of women on this thing.
Wow. Oh.
Mm-hmm. It gets even better. So think about this. Jeffrey Tubin he's an attorney. Look, Jeffrey Tubin, he gets to go, I think he's on I don't know, was it at CNN or was it, because he works two places. He's an analyst at CNN and he's a writer for the
New York Post and New York Times one of them?
Maybe it's a time. I don't know. It's not. I don't think it's.
Well, the paper suspended him also.
Yeah. Well, so what it is he's on like a leave of absence for like 2 weeks or something. So here's the thing, Jeffrey Tubin, because he's their legal eagle guy. Like they really play him up. Jeffrey okay. For the listener that does, if you don't listen, if you're not familiar with this, Jeffrey Tubin on CNN is their version of who's Judge Napolitano, basically on Fox. Like he's that guy, okay? Like he's the one that has all the answers. Well, it's interesting because Jeffrey Tubin, when there's all these allegations against Kavanaugh, all these allegations against Trump, all these allegations against all these people, he talks about cancel them, fire them, burn to the ground, bury them, fuck them, get rid of them. But he gets, he'll just get 2 weeks suspension and, you get to go and spend some time with your family for a few weeks, then you'll be back on TV.
And wear pants.
And wear pants. And it's just like, you fucking guys, do you have to beat one off while you're working? Like, I don't even understand, like, what the hell's going on with, with some of these people. So, yeah, Jeffrey Tubin, I was like, look, how do I say this? There's a certain Schadenfreude.
Yes,
you know what that word means, Danny? Schadenfreude is a German idea, Prussian German idea of commiserating
of others,
the misery of other
I know
people.
What that. I do know the term.
So, yeah, But my problem is, I don't like to tempt fate, because in my example of not wanting to be too much of a Schadenfreude in our industry and for who we are you probably don't even. Danny, do you know who Tex Grubner is or was?
It's
if you don't, it's familiar. Okay. Tex Grubner, I don't know what his real name is, but he's a YouTube character, Tex Grubner Outdoors, and he's still out there. He still does something. But Tex Grubner became famous a number of years ago because he was shooting he had I think it was a Kimber 1911, and he was practicing shooting from retention in like a CQB drill, like on a cardboard target. And what he did is he was drawing the gun out of a holster. I think it was a Black Hawk Serpa. Long story short, on video, he torched a round that went through his leg and down on the ground. He shot himself on video.
Right.
Tex Grubner. That's who Tex Grubner. So here's the thing. I don't like to. I will not say bad shit about. I feel horrible about Tex Grubner, and all I think about him every once in a while, because but for the grace of God, there goes I. Should I ever shoot myself on video for the for the
you and I have both seen
website.
AD, so we don't want to talk too much.
Oh yeah. And so I've seen some that aren't even actually. They're not even user induced. Like, they're all NDs. No. I know of one where an AR-10 run by a very qualified person. He was loading it, had witnesses, hit the bolt release, and it was with Federal Gold Medal match ammo. And the bolt goes home, and it's got a floating firing pin in it. And Federal primers are notoriously light, as opposed to military primers. Federal Gold Medal match ammo has got light primers in it, and it AD'd. It went off and slam fired. Boosh! Just in front of. I mean, it was and it was like people like, what the fuck? And like, my finger's not on that, and people like, holy fuck, your finger's on that trigger. Like it happens. Accidents happen. So I don't want to throw too many
too many stones in glass houses.
Too many. Well, I'm fairly confident that there will be no pictures of me falling asleep with a crack pipe on my. Come on.
Well, yeah, but you stir the masses another way. All 1911 should be 9mm. Really? Oh, yeah.
Dude. Oh my God. I forgot about. Dude, somebody call the ATF because I just blew up the internet. I did not expect. I did not expect that to turn into the shit show
it did.
It turned into.
It did, trust me.
So,
because you know how many of us own 45s?
Yeah,
I'll bet you are.
Here in the armory.
What on earth possessed you to make that utterance is what I'll never get.
Because it's true. It's true. But here's the thing. Okay, so let me tell the story.
I can't wait to see all the reports back from this podcast once it's published.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I ran 45 caliber 1911s professionally. I ran them on the street. I ran them for real. For those of you that may be new to the podcast, I have pistol whipped motherfuckers with freaking 1911s, all steel guns. Sometimes it's just better to hit somebody with a gun than shoot them. Why? Because you don't shoot people that don't need to be shot. Don't shoot people if you don't have to shoot them. So even though if you legally can, don't shoot them if you don't have to. So, but here's the thing. When you're running 1911s in 45 and you're trying to achieve certain levels of skill and benchmarks, what happens is you're in a world surrounded by Glocks and high speed 9mm striker guns. Okay. So I'm reloading 3 times for every magazine that they're doing because they got 15, 17, 18 rounds. And so I'm constantly reloading that gun, which holds me back on my times and my benchmarks. But then I'm fighting the recoil of 45. Every shot, even I'm driving it and what was happening, I started to realize, it took me a long time to come to the realization, the 45's holding me back. And but the problem was in the old days, 9mm 1911s were rat traps. 9mm 1911s were dumpster fires. And so, we got this EDC X9 gun from Wilson. I requested it. They sent it over. I was like, holy shit, this works. Because the EDC X9L gun, it holds 18 rounds, 18 plus 1, and it's a 1911. But it internally, there's some differences. It shoots 9mm. It's got a magazine even though it's 9mm, it's a magazine designed for 9mm rounds, not 45 rounds. It's like a PPQ mag body, really, and it's it locks on the hood like all these striker guns do, and there's other issues that make it better. Okay, like it's like an upgraded 1911, and I was so impressed by it. I was like, man, it would be nice to have like a single stack version of this. So I contacted Wilson. And I was like, and I look, Wilson and I, when I say, I don't mean Bill Wilson, I mean Wilson, the company. I'm not going to say who over there. We have real conversations. I mean, they're limited, but, I wanted them to send over a single stack version of this EDC X9L gun with the external extractor. I wanted the lock on the hood and, some other stuff and less rails. And they basically said, the gun you're describing, we don't make it, and we're not interested in making it. But they offered me a more traditional single stack 9mm gun that's like a traditional 1911, but it's a 9mm. It's called the Experior. And, it's being nice. Okay, send it over. I'll play with it. You'll get it back in a couple weeks. And because, I didn't tell them that, but I'm like, I'll play with it, whatever. But it's going to be a 9mm 1911. It's going to have it's just going to have all the problems that 9mm 1911s have. And so far, holy smokes, this thing runs. I cannot believe how well this runs. And so I've come to the realization that the 9mm game in 1911s has really gotten a lot better. And if somebody, because I get it all the time, I get these questions. Hey man, I'm going to get a 1911. What should I get? And I still think a more modern gun, striker guns, they tend to be better. I think the EDC X9L gun from Wilson is a better gun than the traditional 1911 gun. I think long term it'll probably hold up better, not as much maintenance or fitting to keep it running. But the reality is the EDC X9L gun and the Wilson Experior 9mm traditional 1911, they run the same right now. Like maybe over 100,000 rounds, the traditional 9mm 1911 may fall away and have to go in for more service more frequently. But there's no denying that these things, man, they run like scalded dogs. And I'm like, if you want to get a 1911 today, everybody should have a 45. I get it. I've got plenty of them, and, if I need them or if I can't get 9mm ammo for some reason because of all the whatever, I got plenty of 45. I got 45 guns. We're cool. But if somebody wants to get a 1911 today and they're like, man, I just want to run a 1911. I want to see how far I can take it. I want that experience. I want to run and gun and be the best shooter I can be. Get the 9mm. Because you'll be able to be the best shooter you can be. The round shoots flatter. It holds more bullets. They're just as reliable. The recoil impulse is less. The stopping power of the ammunition is the same or better. 9mm hollow point ammo, self-defense ammo, because they put so much effort into it, is better than 45 ammo in some cases. It's better. If anything, it's equal. The stats show they all function the same. But the technology is more, the money is in 9mm, not in 45. So that's where people put their effort. There's every reason, if you're actually serious about running a 1911, not just nostalgia, get the 9mm. And hence why I made the meme of Amy Coney Barrett, all 9mm should be 1911. And
it blew up. Well, here's
up.
The thing, though.
Oh, my God.
Unfortunately, with 1911 style 9mm, there's just not a lot to pick from. And that is what is out there is in the higher price range.
Well, okay. What you just said is true. Two things can be true at the same time. What you just said is true, and also what you just said is bullshit. Because here's why. Higher end 9mm 1911s is kind of the way to go, right? Like, I'm not recommending somebody run a Kimber. I'm just not. I used to run Kimbers. I'm not, but I'm just saying, like, buy a real gun, buy up. But here's the thing. If you look at the market out there, of high-end 1911s. All right. Insert your favorite. I don't insert your favorite. Even Ed Brown is making 9mm. And that guy, they wouldn't make shit. They were like, they made their own gun their own way. They didn't care what anybody had to say, which is fine. Okay. I respect that actually in a lot of ways. But everybody's making them in 9mm. Even like what was it? The Thunder Ranch. Clint Smith is coming out with a new Thunder Ranch kind of like branded 1911. Clinton likes some of his guns a little bit more basic. There's a few things he does on his guns I don't agree with, but it's fine. Obviously, it comes in 45, but he ain't no dummy. And sure as shit, it's coming in 9mm. And I'm pretty certain it'll probably run. And I think the number one reason why 9mm 1911s run well today is because of the Wilson 9mm magazines. They have put a lot of work into those magazines, those single stack magazines. And, it's pretty neat. I think it's super neat. It is. Look, the EDC X9 gun, I look at it as like it is my daily gun. Some people, they're like, oh, if you carry a Glock 17, they got the pocket rocket Glock 26 or maybe a backup gun. To me, the single stack Experior 9mm 1911 that we have over here on T&E is a perfect backup gun or compact gun to the full size gun. It's thinner, it's the grips, it is a little thinner, but it works in all the holsters just like with Glock 17s and 26s. And firing a Glock 26 and firing a Glock 17, there's no difference. There's perceived recoil. Firing an Experior and firing an EDC X9L, there's no real difference. It's the same gun. So you're not even giving up. You're not even suffering from the idea of I don't change, I don't cycle my my carry guns because that's not good, which I agree with. But they're the same gun.
Yeah. No, I'm here.
I know I lost
haven't,
you,
no,
but,
I've just been letting you carry on.
Let me carry on. So,
do you think the 9mm 1911s will ever sell in the numbers of Striker Fire 9mm? No, I don't think so.
You know what? I actually have a statistic. I think, as odd as it is, I've been looking around. The 1911 is seeing a resurgence, and it's because of 9mm. There are people that like 1911s. They like either their thinness, or they like the grip safety and the thumb safety, or the pointability, or they just like how it feels. If some people, it's an intrinsic, undefinable, this gun has soul, the other gun doesn't have soul. And I'm noticing more and more, even like police departments and SWAT teams are picking up the 1911 again. Like there was a stat that came out the other day. Like I know of at least 2 PDs around here that allow 1911s on the street. And they do. Like the chief even carries one. They can carry whatever they want. If you don't choose a 1911, you can get a Glock. They'll give you a Glock. But they authorize 1911s. Is that the smartest thing? I don't know. 1911 is still not it's a gun that probably should be used by somebody who, is willing to maintain it more. More of an aficionado, but like the EDC X9L gun from Wilson, that gun is more like a Glock than a 1911 internally. It's less finicky. It should be more durable. I haven't put 100,000 rounds through it, but it should be more durable. It's got external extractor. It's got less rails. It's not overlugged. It's got better springs in it, 40,000 round springs in it. Like Glocks, you don't ever hear about Glock guys, I changed my springs over 3,000 rounds. That's a conversation you always heard with 1911s. Wilson guns, how long is this spring good for? 40,000 rounds. Holy shit. It's like, okay, if you get a 1911 that'll shoot 9mm. The magazines are designed for 9mm. It's got an external extractor. It's not over railed. It's not over lugged, and doesn't require and is just as reliable as a Glock. And you want to run that? You don't want to run a Glock? Why would you tell someone not to run that?
No, good point.
If they want to run it, one of the big things I've learned as I've gotten older with firearms is, and I give extreme example to prove a point, but if you like a gun, you will intrinsically shoot it better.
Oh, that makes sense.
Now, most people like guns because they're invested in them, because they don't buy a gun to shit on. Like, they buy the best gun they can, so it's their favorite gun. Like, no one, people buy what they want. They don't buy what they don't want. So, but if they want it and they like it, if they like the gun and they believe in the gun, they will tend to be more accurate with the gun. It's been through observation, and I've noticed it to be true. If you get a guy who loves high
I was just going to refer to that.
you watch that you watch, like, if that guy's really into high points, like he's like Gen 1, Gen 2, he's got all these different versions of high points in his head, and he's all about the high point. Guarantee you that guy's going to run that high point pretty well.
It's true.
So, I'm noticing a small resurgence. Now, I'm not saying that the 1911 is ever going to come back to the way it was. But, man, the 1911 is coming back.
Yeah, you really didn't have to, because you and the Supreme Court nominee held up that banner saying they should all be 1911s. I'm still laughing my ass off.
Apparently, Amy Coney Barrett is right on everything.
I can't remember right now. I'm having a brain fart. When is her confirmation date to vote?
Oh, they'll do it.
No, they set a date.
The election. So they'll.
I want to say, is it this Saturday, the 23rd, or whatever that is?
They will get her confirmed. You know what? I actually want to bring up a point while you brought that up. They will get her confirmed before the riots start out on November 4th. And the political assassinations that start on November the 4th, which I think is possible, especially if it's close anywhere. It would be best for the country. It would be best for the country no matter what happens. If Donald Trump legitimately loses, it would be best for the country as if he's wiped out. If Donald Trump legitimately wins, it would be best for the country that Biden is wiped out. Because the problem is, if it's not a wipeout, and there's enough play that people can fight around the edges, and social people will lose their minds. But I'm going to bring up a point here. And this is why I don't like Fox News, I don't like CNN, and for a lot of reasons. Because the reality is, if you watch CNN and you watch Fox News, if you watch Fox News and Donald Trump loses, you won't know why Donald Trump lost. You won't see it coming. If you watch CNN and Donald Trump wins, you won't know why Donald Trump wins. So why the fuck are you watching either two of those channels? Okay? So here's a point I'm going to bring up that nobody that I've noticed in any of these, nobody's brought this up. Nobody. I'm saying it first. Court packing, right? Like the court packing. All of a sudden, like it was always referred to as a scheme, right? FDR had a scheme, court packing. And court packing was, there's 9 justices, and if I recall, I don't believe the Constitution, the way it was written, ever enumerated the amount of justices. It just said there will be a Supreme Court that will be created, and it's a co-equal branch of government. It never says 9. It's set at 9, but that's from tradition and policy that came later when they were forming the government. But there's nothing in the Constitution that says it has to be 9, that it can't be 10 or 11. Maybe it might say odd or even. I can't remember. Probably odd. But here's the thing. Let's say Biden's president. We have a Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, who John Roberts, who is supposedly a conservative, and he kind of is a conservative. But John Roberts is very, very, very concerned about the politicization of the Supreme Court. He adores the Supreme Court. He loves the Supreme Court, and he's very aware of the Supreme Court's position in American society and American jurisprudence, and he will not have the Supreme Court used as a political weapon to settle political issues. For example, John Roberts wrote the opinion against Obamacare before he wrote the majority opinion for Obamacare because he was the swing vote on both sides and he wrote both opinions. The reality is Obamacare, Obamacare has so many holes in it that you could invalidate Obamacare. But John Roberts had decided he was not going to let the Supreme Court invalidate probably the biggest political change in U.S. history in I don't know how many years. His argument was, if y'all don't like this, go pass the fucking law and change it. He didn't say it that way, but that's what he meant. He wasn't going to have the Supreme Court used to settle this political issue. He was going to have the Supreme Court to settle legal issues. So now that I've set this up for the listener, let me just go ahead and give you a reality check here. Biden's president. Biden croaks. Kamala Harris is president even. And she decides we need 2 more Supreme Court justices. Okay? And they nominate 2 Supreme Court justices. And they get through the Senate, right? John Roberts doesn't show up to swear them in. What do? Why does the Supreme Court? Everybody talks about this. We are the Supreme Court, Congress, and the executive branch of the White House are 3 co-equal branches of government. Who says the Supreme Court has to do anything? John Roberts is like, yeah, we busy. I'm sorry, we don't have any office space. We're not going to fill them in.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm
there?
I'm just trying to think
that like, here's the thing. Who's to say I don't think John Roberts has to accept any more justices. What are they going to do? Okay, we're going to sue you. All right.
Yeah, let's take it to the Supreme
Court. Let's go into the chambers.
Court.
Everybody raise your hand if you want any more justices. Aye. He's like, nay. All right, the nays have it. Okay, we done. Here's the thing. Nobody's talking about that. And you want to know why nobody's talking about that? I don't know if that's true, because the reality is Congress could probably fight the Supreme Court by cutting off money, I think, to the Supreme Court, because Congress is the power of the purse, and they could possibly mess with their budgets. We could do this. We could have this battle. But nobody's talking about this. You want to know why? Because CNN wants to keep their viewers motivated, watching, and saying, we're going to do it. And Fox News wants to keep their viewers motivated, saying, we're going to stop
There was something.
And it's not news. It's not real analysis.
There was something today.
I
was getting in the car and I caught the tail end of it. Roberts sided with the liberals today against the conservatives. I did, and I don't know what the point was. Did you hear it?
Yes. So there's it is John Roberts is a perfect example of John Roberts isn't going to do this. Okay. So the Pennsylvania, because if 2020 is going to be stolen, if 2020 is going to turn into a fucking war, it's going to be because of Pennsylvania. Okay. And so somebody passed a law or did something in Pennsylvania that basically said after the election, if any absentee ballots come in postmarked, or either if they're postmarked or come in 3 days after the election, they have to be counted. That's all the law said. The Republicans are like, no, you're not doing that. And the Democrats are like, yes, we are. And they sued, and it went into the Supreme Court. And John Roberts, they basically were like, yeah, we're not going to tell you that you're going to disenfranchise a bunch of fucking people on a really close election. So we're going to go ahead and give you your 3 fucking days and get the fuck out of here. That's what he did, because he's not getting in the middle of it. John Roberts is not going to have the Democrats coming after the Supreme Court saying that they're trying to keep people fucking voting. That's what that is, and that's a sign.
Well,
of what's to come.
He's going to be in the minority after Amy's sworn in.
Well, he's a
for now,
justice.
but it doesn't matter because he did vote and write the opinions on the Obamacare and other controversial things that are not let's just say, conservative standing. Once Barrett gets in there, it doesn't matter what he votes because he is not really in play anymore.
Well, it depends. It depends on how it goes because you are not actually looking at the history of the Supreme Court. A lot of these swing justices that turned out to be liberal were appointed by conservatives, by Republicans. And I think this was on the podcast that disappeared. The Brookings Institute and all these, well, not the Brookings, but there was a movement in conservative circles after a number of Republican justices are nominated, and they turn into liberals. And the one that they all bitched and harped on was Justice Souter. Justice Souter is still alive. He retired. Justice Souter is a weird guy. He's probably gay. That's my opinion. I don't give a fuck. Don't sue me. He's not going to sue me. Justice Souter is a weird guy. Justice Souter was nominated by the Republican administration, but he basically turned into a liberal or a wishy-washy guy. And what the Republicans started saying to themselves, no more Justice Souters. And so we're going to start making lists. We're going to have lists of conservative, vetted justices. You're going to look at their opinions and look at their jurisprudence, and we're going to have a list. And that's where Donald Trump is getting these lists from. That's where he's getting Amy Coney Barrett from, as opposed to like all of a sudden, like there would be a justice would pass away, and all of a sudden just somebody would show up, be like, oh, I guess they're going to be Justice Yahoo. Never heard of this fucking guy before, but I think Republican, he's going to be fine. And Democrat, he's going to be fine. And it turns out
I thought he was getting that list from the Federalist Society.
It is the Federalist Society.
Hey, how's our
That's
time
actually where he's getting it from. But, oh, fuck, you know what? We're going pretty long. We only have a few more minutes. But that's where all that comes from. So Roberts is a conservative. I don't think Roberts cares about AR-15s. I would not want to leave it up to John Roberts to make the argument defending my 30-round magazines. But he's basically a conservative. But here, you know what? And I've always noticed this too. Here's a clue. So, when Clarence Thomas was nominated, the left went crazy. This was years ago. The left went crazy. Anita Hill, all this crazy bullshit, right? Justice Kavanaugh was nominated. The left went crazy. They just went crazy, right? John Roberts wasn't nominated that long ago, and everybody was like, okay. You didn't have a bunch of crazy people showing up trying to freaking destroy his life, because the reality was, yeah, it'd be all right. He's, you know what? The Republicans think he's okay. Democrats, they know him. They talk to him. He's been in Washington a long time.
Yeah,
he'll be all right. But the ones they freak out over, those are the real conservatives. And it's amazing. Nobody's ever talked about that.
They did not.
Yeah, just saying. So, all right. Anything else we need to cover before we go?
I hope that this new mic and sound system works out for me.
You sound really good. You sound a lot better than you do normally. And I think now that you have that, we'll try to do a pod with Freeze maybe tomorrow or the next day. So we've gone like a couple weeks without a pod, and everybody's all worried. So now we'll just bury them with podcasts, and they'll get tired of hearing from us. Here's the greatest thing with this new system. You and Freeze could maybe do podcasts without me. How crazy would that? Could I trust you two?
We need a pivot man in that circle jerk. So,
or am I gonna come into the office one day and like, why is all of our social media turned off, and why how come everybody wants to burn me in effigy, but Alex Jones says we're great? What happens?
So, see a subscriber.
Yeah. He might be. So yeah, hey, look, you can say anything you want about Alex Jones, but he knows how to run a business. So. All right. Well, this wraps up episode 189 of the John 1911 podcast. If you want to see stories or pictures or links of anything we discussed, you can go to our website, john1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody,
good evening.
Good day.